Tonight, we are starting off with a key question hanging in the air. What is stopping Donald Trump from attacking Iran, if at all? Iran's economy at the moment is strained. It is facing internal challenges and dissent. But despite sanctions and isolation in a way, Tehran still possesses a formidable arsenal, one that could inflict serious damage on American interests, U.S. allies and the global economy. If Washington chooses military escalation, any American strike could trigger a protracted and costly conflict. Back when Iran retaliated in June last year, striking Israeli targets and a U.S. base in Qatar, it stopped short of causing American casualties or crippling Gulf economies, for instance. But this time around, if Iran's leadership believes its survival is at stake, the response could be far more dramatic. Let's just take a closer look at Iran's capabilities. Just to put this simply, Iran has turned the Persian Gulf into a potential battle space. Its arsenal includes low-cost swarm drones, long-range ballistic missiles, hypersonic projectiles, and also high-speed torpedoes. In fact, the country is close to a deal with China to purchase anti-ship cruise missiles. The deal for the China-made missiles is near completion reportedly, though no delivery date as of now has been agreed upon. The supersonic missiles have a range of about 290 kilometers and are designed to basically evade ship-borne defenses by flying low and fast, very crucial. In fact, Iran's Revolutionary Guards, the ideological arm of Iran's military, carried out military exercises on the southern coast of the country near the Gulf.
سر جنگیان افزایش پیدا کرده. اطلاعات نظامی
Iran, for that matter, has rapidly replenished its missile stockpiles after the June conflict. It possesses thousands of long-range Shahed drones, the same type used by Russia in Ukraine, along with the Muhajir series of surveillance and strike drones as well. Clearly, Iran is not without options. Now, the bigger question is not over whether the United States can defend against Iran's missile armada. It probably can, but then at what cost? Because Iran's strategy goes beyond its own borders. Tehran has built what many call a ring of fire. We told you about this, a network of armed groups designed to encircle Israel and pressure U.S. interests across the region. This includes Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and powerful Shia militias in Iraq. Any conflict with Iran could quickly become a regional war with far-reaching consequences. Washington is preparing. The world's largest warship, the USS Gerald R is heading towards the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is already in position. Both lead strike groups equipped with guided missile destroyers, additional assets deployed across the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and near the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, that also brings us to one of the most critical areas, the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil choke point. About 20 million barrels of oil passing through it every single day, nearly one-third of the world's liquefied natural gas, and estimated $500 billion in annual energy trade, depending on this stretch of water there. The shipping lane lying within the territorial waters of Iran and Oman, and that gives Tehran geographic leverage as well. If Iran chooses to mine the waters, for example, deploy fast attack boats or even use submarines for asymmetric warfare, global energy markets would feel the shock immediately. Iran's parliament has already approved a motion to close the strait, the final decision resting with the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But then there is another variable in this conflict, the timeline. And in fact, in developments that are also crucial, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi landing in Israel for a 2-day visit tomorrow. He is scheduled to address the parliament there as well during that visit. It's highly unlikely that any major strike would be launched while a visiting head of government is on Israeli soil. Prime Minister Modi departing on the 26th of February from there the same day when Iran and US are scheduled to hold their next round of nuclear talks in Geneva. In fact, Iranian military leaders are striking a rather defiant tone. The commander-in-chief of the Iranian army has declared that Iran will defend its independence until its last breath. He calls the current situation a hybrid war, a combination of military, economic, political, and informational pressure. And he is also reminding the world that major powers once claimed invincibility in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, only to leave after years of costly conflict. Trump, on the other hand, has denied reports that his top military officer is against the strike on Iran. US media had reported that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff had warned Trump and top officials of various risks associated with the strikes, including a long-term entanglement. Trump slammed the reports, labeling them inaccurate, and taking to Truth Social. The president wrote, "It was 100% incorrect that General Kane is against US going to war with Iran." Washington Post had reported that Kane had expressed concern at the White House and Pentagon that munition shortages and a lack of allied support could increase danger to US personnel. In fact, the Wall Street Journal said both the top general and other Pentagon officials have warned of risks like US and allied casualties, as well as the danger of US air defenses being depleted if its forces strike Iran. The Axios reported General Kane warned of the United States becoming entangled in a prolonged conflict. The question is pretty simple. Will diplomacy prevail, or are we looking at the build-up to a conflict that could engulf the entire region, also shake global energy markets, and drag major powers into another prolonged war? Perhaps the real answer at this point is uncertain, and the week ahead will tell us more. Our next story is about social media use among teenagers and the kind of content that is being consumed. The latest developments coming in from the United States, where court documents reportedly have revealed that nearly 1 in 5 Instagram users aged 13 to 15 reported seeing unwanted nudity or sexual content on the platform. Unwanted nudity or sexual content. Nearly 1 in 5 of them. The disclosures reportedly coming in from a federal lawsuit in California and include parts of a 2025 deposition by the Instagram chief reportedly. The data, based on a 2021 user survey, reportedly found that about 19% of teens in the 13 to 15 age group said they had seen explicit images they did not want to view. Around 8% also reported seeing content related to self-harm or threats of self-harm. Just for context here, the case is part of thousands of lawsuits in the US accusing Meta of designing addictive features that contribute to a mental health crisis among minors, allegedly. Separate internal documents reportedly showing a company researcher allegedly urged Meta to focus on teen users, describing them allegedly as catalysts who influenced their parents and younger siblings to join the platform. Meta has reportedly said that the figures come from user feedback, not a review of actual posts, and adds that much of the explicit content is shared through private messages, where privacy limits monitoring. The company also pointing to new safety measures for teen accounts, including removing nudity and sexually explicit material, even when generated by AI, with limited exceptions for educational or medical use. Remember, time and again, there have been questions and concern around the use of social media by the younger population and the kind of impact that it actually has. In fact, things have reached a point where Australia, for example, has already banned under 16s from using major social media services in January this year itself. The government there had said the ban would reduce the negative impact of social media's design features that encourage young people to spend more time on screens, while also serving up content that can harm their health and well-being. And it's a move that has been closely watched by countries around the world. Exactly 4 years since Russia launched its war on Ukraine, while Putin has not got the quick and overwhelming victory that he had hoped for, the cost has been mounting on both sides as Europe's biggest conflict enters the 5th year now. There is no sign of a peace deal as of now. A detailed report next.
Began as a swift Russian military operation. Tankers rolling into Ukrainian territory overnight, and Russian President Vladimir Putin drawing the red line for Kiev.
I would like to remind you that our country also has various weapons of destruction, and in certain aspects even more modern than NATO countries. If there's a threat of territorial integrity of our country, in order to protect Russia and our people, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal. This is not a bluff.
What many hoped to be a brief one has now prolonged into a war of attrition, marking the largest conflict in Europe since World War II. 4 years since Ukraine has plunged into what it calls fight for survival, lives lost, buildings destroyed, cities reduced to rubble, a generation scarred. This is how modern-day Ukraine looks like. There is no sign of the deadly war coming to an end. Russian drones have hammered Zaporizhzhia overnight. The Russian forces have increased the aerial bombardment. Ukraine is also intensifying attacks deep inside Russian territory. Away from the front lines, the war has etched an indelible mark on every Ukrainian.
All we can do is wait. But how will it end? I suppose we would like it to be a grand celebration, but I think it will feel more like a day of mourning, because so many people have unfortunately died in this war.
Over the years, the front lines have only widened, not just with troops, but also with warheads. Amid a grinding war, Moscow is doubling down on its nuclear triad. Putin calls for development of Russia's nuclear forces an absolute priority. His pledge comes at a time when world's biggest nuclear powers, US and Russia, are no longer restrained by any arms control pact. On the ground, Russia has accelerated drone and missile attacks threefold. So far, Russia controls 20% of Ukraine. It has made slow incremental gains, primarily in the Donetsk direction, towards the fortress belt of cities like Sloviansk and Kramatorsk.
Putin has not achieved his goals. He did not break the Ukrainians. He did not win this war. We have preserved Ukraine, and we will do everything to achieve peace and to ensure there is justice.
Russia vows to fight on until all its war aims are fulfilled. And for millions caught in the shadow of the war, the question remains painfully unchanged. How much long? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.